I'm Dr. Marcia Martin, the heart healer, and I am the founder of the Heart Healing Foundation. And this means that we want to support you in healing, clearing and healing your heart. So if you are feeling burdened by guilt, shame, or blame, I call them the toxic triplets, please come visit us. We are now a nonprofit, which means we can support you to the degree that you are able to give. You're not going to be turned away because you don't have the financing in order to receive the support that you need. But if you're doing well, please be generous because we need to keep going.
So you mentioned to me that you're not for profit. So how did that come about?
It was really a decision after COVID. I started looking around and saying, this is not the same world we used to live in. And I had always been doing a lot, giving a lot of sessions away for no charge because it felt right to me. But I could see that we had entered a new period of trauma, and yet the finances that might have been available to pay for that care and recovery prior to COVID were now rapidly being eaten up. So I knew I needed to find another way to serve. And it couldn't just be, well, if you have the money. It had to be something where I said, all are welcome here. If you are willing to do the work, the heart work, we can help you move from victim to victorious. And then you help us to the degree that you are able.
I was watching the news today, actually, now that you mentioned that, and I've seen there's a lot of people who are suffering from trying to turn their lives around. Like here in Canada, like crime seems to be on the rise. People are struggling. People are trying to figure it out. They don't know where they're going to find their own victory from, right? And when you mentioned going from victim to victor, what are some of the ways that maybe we can determine how we're going to do that? Because I'm guessing everyone is different in their own journey, right?
Absolutely. And it's really quite dependent on your belief system. It doesn't matter how you were raised, it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, how old you are, or any of these extenuating circumstances, as much as it matters what you believe about those circumstances. So if you believe it is impossible for you to move any further than where you are currently, you will find a way to keep going in the same circle. Conversely, if you believe that there is someone that's going to help you, or some resource that will help you, or some way for you to move forward, you will be open to receiving information about that support. So the first thing I want you to do is take a look and say, what am I believing about this situation? And then do the work to let go of all of the limitations around it. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm not old enough. I'm too old. Whatever it is that you are telling yourself has to be true about the situation is just you projecting your belief. Every situation is fluid because every situation is comprised of energy. It isn't set in stone. It isn't going to be the same way for the next 1,000 years. Everything is fluid if you allow it to be so. So I want you to approach this and say, okay, it's just energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's already here for me to shape. I don't need to create something new. I don't need to do a big rampage of destruction through my life. I need to reshape my beliefs. That will allow you to transform your life because your outside life represents what you are believing, acting in accordance with, and saying about yourself. So if you were saying, well, this is too difficult for me, try saying, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to allow myself to see how I can do X. But please be careful. Do not start chomping off these goals, choosing a goal that's at the top of the mountain while you're at the bottom, and then saying to yourself tomorrow, well, that didn't work. I knew it. I knew it wasn't going to work. It's not possible. So stop asking yourself to do the impossible. Instead, I'll give it a try. What can I do from where I am with what I have and who I am? So I can't say, I want to be a young male of 10. Not going to happen in this lifetime. So if those are my parameters for success, it's not likely. I can say, I'm good at X, Y, and Z. I'm going to use those skills to see what I can do about solving this situation, or not even solving it, beginning to see movement toward my goal.
It's like when you have someone, they go to the extreme, right? Like I'll give an example of like weight loss where they say that I'm going to lose 15 pounds and all of a sudden the only thing they eat once a day is a biscuit.
And then by
Right?
the end of the week, they're shaking, headachy. Oh, oh. And then they start having that, I knew I couldn't do it. Well, you're right. If you set unrealistic expectations, it is likely that you are going to continue in a pattern of failure. So please adjust your goals to be more loving, more kind, more accepting of where you are, and more easily met. It is not a sign of defeat if you choose a goal that is here instead of here. Get to this goal and celebrate. Be excited and delighted. Be so proud of yourself. That will give you momentum so that you will easily, if you do 10 of these little goals, you'll do this. So why not have fun along the way? And that is the other principle that is so important. How you feel is a big factor in determining your result. If you are feeling, I'm incapable, it is really hard for you to find the motivation, the intellectual capacity, the information, or whatever you might need in order to get to where you want to go. So choose things that feel good, that you do want to accomplish. If you don't want to lose those 15 pounds, don't. Give yourself a break. You don't need to look like you're um, in good in need of a good meal in order for you to be accepted by society. Be the weight that you are comfortable being, that feels healthy, vibrant, and good to you, and then see how you feel there. You may say, that feels good, but I'm ready to go a little further. I'm ready to honor myself with more healthy eating or more exercise or more ways. Keep honoring you instead of condemning yourself, criticizing yourself, obligating yourself to do things that you don't really want to do because somebody somewhere said you should.
I wonder how many people struggle with that because when I look at when we want to make a change, it takes enough courage just to acknowledge that we need to fix something, right? And then we want to make sure that we're accepting of the new version of ourselves. But many of us, and I think maybe at a point in my life I went through this, was will the people around me like the new version of me?
That's excellent.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? If they don't, they're not your people. If they are unable to love you as you are expanding and you feel good about your expansion, then these are people that you may have outgrown or you were never in alignment with. So Do your growing for you, knowing that the people that truly love you, that can truly support you, and that are really invested in seeing you be your optimal self will want to grow with you. And those that have a little something to say, it's okay to leave them behind.
That's so difficult to do. Like, how do you leave behind someone that you've known for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I know it doesn't necessarily matter on the length of time, but let's say more so the quality versus the quantity, right? Like, if there's someone, for me, there was a number of people I had to leave behind, but I guess it was easier for me to do because by the time things were about to hit the fan, I made changes. But there was a group of people, very few, that when I look back, I didn't want to leave them behind, but I had to leave them behind because if I didn't, then it would have stunted my growth. And then I began to worry about it, right? I began to think, okay, this new version of Terrain, is it a jerk? Is it someone that's full of themselves?
Mm.
Why does he think he could accomplish these things while maybe the people around him, he's not able to bring them along? And I look at survivor's guilt, for example, right? Like, when something tragic happens and you're one of the three people that survive and you feel bad for surviving. I wonder if many of us experience that when we succeed. I
You know,
succeeded and others didn't. Like, what are your thoughts?
that is brilliant. And here's the first thing we need to know. It is not our job to make other people's lives work in a way that would make us feel good. We are not responsible and cannot live their lives for them, but we can all be examples of what is possible. So we can't say, gosh, I'm choosing success, but they're choosing to stay there. Maybe I should stay there with them and believe that that will ever make us happy or will ever help them in some way. We are not supporting them and we are not supporting ourselves. You are just saying, okay, let's all just fail together. What you are doing when you say, I'm ready to take the next step. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to step into my fullness. You are opening the door for yourself, and you're going to be doing the heavy lifting because the one that goes first is always taxed with a lot more responsibility. And then you can leave the door open for them and say, hey, look, everyone, I made it through the door. I invite you to come with me. It will be up to them to decide, yeah, I'm ready to let go of some of these things that are holding me back. Or, hey, you know what? I'm really comfortable where I am. There's no right answer. Sometimes we need to stay where we are because we don't yet have what we need, or we haven't yet learned what we need to learn from where we are. Other times it is so obvious, oh my gosh, I need to get going. And then, wow, here's Terrain opening the door for me. I have it so much easier than he did because he was willing to go first. So honor all that you are and honor all that the others are by allowing them to do what is right for them without feeling guilty that it wasn't your choice. Whatever choice they're making is right for them, but that cannot mean that it's right for you. So you have to separate. I'm on the Terrain road. Hey, he's on the Joe road. She's on the Cheryl road. Let them be on their own road. Stay in your own lane. Do you and encourage others to do them to their fullest potential.
Why do you think that is hard for those who we may leave behind to accept?
That's a great question. Some people have gotten used to if you were the person that is going to be the first one that kind of takes off and gets things done, they've been used to you leading the parade for a while. You didn't just come up with this idea yesterday. You've always sort of been ahead of the pack or doing that extra work to get yourself together. And yet, those who are wanting to stay behind have gotten used to you doing the heavy lifting, and they're not really excited that you're going to be leaving because they know that that's going to negatively impact them. However, everyone has to at some point do their own heavy lifting, do their own workout if they're going to get stronger. So they may make a few comments because they're uncomfortable or unhappy that you're choosing to duck out, but that should not put you off. You just have to recognize, oh, I see. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for them while they figure out how to do these things that I have been doing for them, either consciously or unconsciously.
There's an interview that I watched where the person was being told that the way that they were going, they may have to leave someone behind. And the person was so adamant in not doing so because it was clear that they were growing apart. But yet, this person was defending this other person that they didn't want to leave them behind to the point where they would have emotional outbursts like F bombs and swearing and everything. And they didn't realize how quote unquote toxic their response was. And I find that maybe there's people out there who will prevent themselves from growing to remain comfortable,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And what I would advise in that particular circumstance, let's say you're in a relationship that you believe is really working, but you understand that for you personally, you need to move on. Don't begin with the idea, well, I'm going to have to leave my very best friend, my partner, my spouse, my family. That is not usually the way that it happens. It's very unusual for suddenly you're on your own and uh, you weren't ready for that kind of thing. Begin saying, I want to become more so that I have more to offer myself and to those that I love. Begin there and know that anywhere along the way, you can encourage these other individuals whom you love to join you. You can show them, wow, look what I'm learning. Look how exciting this is. Look what you could be doing. Don't insist or expect that they're going to do it in the same way that you're doing it, but encourage them to grow in the way that honors them. And that way, you have a much better chance of staying as a cohesive whole. There will be times when people drop off, but by the time they drop off, you're going to feel, gosh, we've gone as far as we can go together. This is not so painful because there's not a whole lot of glue left holding us together. Over this growth period, we have drifted apart. You will either drift apart or grow even closer because you are enjoying this expansion.
And when it comes to like the part where you're worrying about what people would say or do, maybe to you, right? Like maybe they would exclude you from certain functions, right? Because we're human beings, we're pretty intuitive. Like we know when someone's not coming around us, right?
Right.
And I think for a lot of us, we may think like I'm looking back at my situations, and I faced quite a bit of hostility from the people that were made aware. I can understand if someone was caught off guard. Like you woke up someday and you said, Marcia, you know what? I don't want to be with you anymore. I can
I'm
understand.
done.
Yeah, I can understand that, right? But if the person sits you down, they have a conversation, they don't make it personal. They say, you know what? This is where I want to take my life. And where I'm taking my life, I don't believe you can follow based on X, Y, and Z. Right. But then we begin to worry about it. And you mentioned, I know earlier, making sure that you're in the right place, the right state of mind, and don't go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to get rid of Johnny, Bob, and so on. Just focus on yourself and make sure that you're in the right state of mind. But when the worry part starts to creep in, how do you advise that we deal with that? Because that seems to weigh on a lot of people's minds.
Well, the first thing I would say is don't have the conversation. Hey, Terrain, I'm taking off on this great adventure. Uh, you're never going to be able to make it. Why would you preface your growth with their inability to do so? Instead, be all inclusive. I am so excited about this growth opportunity. I see what's possible. I want you to come with me. Be inclusive, invite them, give them an opportunity. You are the leader because you are the one that sees the potential. Let them see your vision and get excited because it's much more fun if we do have a buddy than if we're trying to do it by ourselves. So we don't know what other people what is possible for other people. So let's not put that limitation on them. You don't know. I might decide tomorrow, my lifelong dream has been to be an astronaut. I'm going to go train to be an astronaut. We don't know what people may decide to do, especially if they believe that there is an opportunity or that they are welcome. So I invite everyone, and they will drop away as needed as this moves forward, either because you're no longer in alignment, they don't want to do the work that's associated with growing, or they have gathered other interests along the way. But if you start out, hey, sorry, I'm going to this great place and you're just not good enough, you are going to create enemies and you've placed a limitation on someone else, which doesn't resonate well in your own energetic field because part of you is going to say, "Oh, I said to Terrain, you, sorry, bud, you can't go." How does that make me feel? It's not going to really make you feel great. You're going to start second guessing you. Well, maybe I made a bad decision. And then you bring in that self sabotage. So make it as easy as possible by saying, hey, everybody, I'm going on this great adventure. Who would like to come?
And that's a wise way to do it because you're not making it all about them. You're saying that it's me. I want to do
I'm
this, right?
right. I'm choosing this amazing thing. I would love for you to join me. You're not telling them, I will do the work for you. You're not telling them, I will make it easy for you. You're not saying, um, I'm going to supply you with everything that you need. You are saying, I'm choosing this for me. I would love for you to join me. They must then look within. Am I ready to do the work that's necessary to grow, or do I need to stay in this safe place? If, and it's always a possibility, they say, who do you think you are to think that you can grow? Recognize that is a fear based statement from them. They've either checked with their internal dialogue and said, uh-oh, I don't think I'm capable, or they've checked with their internal dialogue and it said something like, nobody gets out of this situation. Terrain is crazy. He's going to crash and burn. I need to tell him. The thing that I don't want you to do is take on their fear or take their beliefs personally. They don't know you. They don't know how much work you've done to prepare for this moment, and they don't know how much you want it. So they're just going to speak from their own awareness. And if it's fear based, let them own it. You don't have to.
I wonder how much of that can apply to, let's say, romantic relationships where there's many people who are still trying to figure it out and understand the dynamic between let's say men and women, right? Like she would bring something, he would bring something, but we want to grow together and formulate something. Like when I look at an ex that I used to date, she would say that she reached a certain point in her life where she didn't want to grow anymore because she'd always used to say that, well, I've reached this age and I'm stuck in my ways.
Yikes.
Right. And it was scary because when you look at someone's age and they're in their 40s, they still have so much years ahead of them. So if you're refusing at this point not to make any positive changes, how are you going to have a positive outcome at that point, especially when you're announcing it so arrogantly? So when I look back at that situation and I was trying to let them know that there's many ways to grow, but when it comes to a relationship, you want to grow as the person, the individual. And then if you're into relationships, you want to grow together, right? Because if you don't want to grow with the person, then outside of what's all these young cats doing these days, outside of the sexual experience, there's really no point to even consider yourself in a serious relationship because if it's only sex, you don't need to be committed these days anyways, right? So when I looked at that situation, I tried to explain it to her. She had a difficult time understanding it. And then I gave her the example whereas if you had a son and they brought home someone that said the same things that you're saying now to them, how would you feel? And she wouldn't like it. I was like, that's the beginning of your growth. Right? Your growth is you have to understand how your actions not only impacts you, but impacts other people. So she understood it for if she had a kid, but she still had a difficult time relating it back to her. So how would we help those people trying to make that connection when there's such an obvious disconnect?
Well, she's working off this limiting belief. And I have a similar example of someone who said to me, well, I'm in my 40s now, so I'm wearing glasses. I was like, what? Oh yeah. I knew that when I went to be in my 40s or got to be in my 40s, I would need glasses. I was like, okay. We are so good at painting ourselves into a corner when we repeat certain limitations. So this particular individual had decided that 40 was going to be the pinnacle of her life. And after that, she could just kind of ride out the rest on whatever achievements she had. And she could just quit. When somebody is that convinced that they have a really good handle on the way they want things to be, talking to them generally is not going to do much. So, what you could do instead is show them. So, you don't do anything with her. You say, gosh, I understand that that's your belief system. I'm really inspired to do more. So, I'm just going to continue to do more. And I really would love for you to come with me and then leave it there and go about doing more. Let them see what it looks like when somebody is really honoring themselves and exploring their own growth and becoming more of the person that they want to be instead of just the person they were yesterday. So, this is an opportunity for you to show by example and give up on the talking. They've already decided, just like the individual who said, have to be wearing glasses by 40 or in my 40s. That was a set in stone decision that they worked very hard to make sure happened. And then when they got the glasses, they were like, oh, I wish I didn't need glasses. I'm like, well, okay, anytime you want to along this road, you need to change your belief system about what is wanted and what is not wanted. So, if you have an individual that is very rigid, talking is going to do very little. showing them what is possible through your example may help them start to see what could be possible for themselves. But recognize a rigid person is a difficult person to convince. So please don't tell yourself, gosh, I really failed with that person. First of all, you're not in charge of their life. And if somebody is that committed to their journey, it's very unlikely that they're going to have a big epiphany and decide, wow, I was wrong. And I really want to make a correction. Course corrections generally come when we are desperately unhappy and are ready to commit to this new way of being.
It's like you're trying to figure it out and you're just like, you know what? I am too old and I'm sick and tired of all of this. But love has no expiry date, progress, growth has no expiry date. And I truly feel bad for the people that give up at their midpoints in their life, like the 30s and 40s. Man, look at my 20s. I knew nothing, even though my arrogance would think that I knew a lot, right? It wasn't until my 30s where things began to make sense. And I look at all the advice that I received from, let's say, my mentors or those who I hung out with who are older than me. They said the same thing. Like their 40s and 50s, that's when a lot of things made sense,
Things
right?
start gelling. Yeah, you've got enough life experience so you can make a really good determination on, hey, this has brought me joy for a considerable amount of time, or this has been miserable. And let's also really recognize you're not going to change when you're moderately happy. You're going to do a lot to keep yourself in that sort of I'm okay place because change takes effort. So it's unlikely that you are going to jump on the change bandwagon when your life is okay. And it is more likely that you're going to be motivated to make the changes when you have stepped into more of a dark night of the soul.
How much how much of a role does happiness play in all of that?
I think happiness should be the cornerstone of our existence. Love is the energy, unconditional love, not romantic love, but unconditional love that accepts you where you are, no matter who you are or where you are. Unconditional love must be the foundation of our being. It is all that the divine share with us. And if we would allow ourselves to interact with ourselves and others from that place of love, then we would easily attain a state of joy. Joy does not mean I'm always happy. Yeah. Joy means I feel good about my life and my choices. I feel that I am honoring myself and I feel that I am in a divine flow. I am in that place of alignment where I am receiving support and guidance to keep me moving forward. But perhaps I don't have tremendous highs or terrible lows. I might be in more of that humming sort of place, that place that just feels good, where I can say, I'm happy, but maybe I'm not ecstatic. Now, happy or joyful isn't I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm kind of sad, I'm just faking it. This is you really able to say, I'm really delighted with the choices that I am making in this moment. And I am not regretful that I have made, perhaps had to make some really bad choices in order to get here. So you can't look back and say, whoa, I have a bad track record. You have to look back and say, I have learned so much. I have made all of these decisions that didn't turn out well. And now I have this wealth of information about what I don't want to do. So now it is so much easier for me to make choices that would feel good, that would honor me, that would help me go forward.
So it's like looking back at your past, not in a traumatic perspective, but in a triumphant perspective, right?
Yes, look at me. Even though it was rough, even though it was dark, even though it was lonely, I still kept going. And maybe I made some decisions that didn't turn out well, but look how much I've learned. Look how much I've grown. Look how much more capable I am today than I was before I started down that path.
So, what recommendation or let's say final words that you'd want to give our audience to prepare themselves for the future where some of the things may come up and they may feel that they're not ready for it, but the world believes that they are?
Oh, now that's a good one. So the first thing I want to say is we are not usually presented with opportunities that we are not ready for in some way. So I would say if some opportunity comes up for growth and your first reaction is, oh no, I can't do that, take a moment and take a breath and spend time looking at your strengths. What do you have that you can bring to this situation? If you cannot find any strengths, you're not looking, you're not committed, you're just playing a game. Everyone comes with plenty of strength that they can bring to every situation. So make a list of those strengths. I can bring this and this and this. And then take a look at the opportunity again. Is it asking you to use those strengths? Now, most people will say, and then you need to look at your weaknesses. Well, we can do that. Make a list of your strengths. Really get down and dirty on what you do well. Don't worry about bragging. This is not going to be shown to anyone else. Really get serious about, you know what, I'm really good at this and feel how that feels. And then put your fold your paper in half so it's like the hot dog fold. And on the other side, make your list of weaknesses and take as much time as you need, but really make it just get it down on paper. When you have your two sides, fold it really well, rip it or cut it down the middle. And I want you to take the strength side and put it somewhere where you will see it, or make copies of it and put it everywhere on your computer, in your purse or your pocket, on your bathroom mirror, on the refrigerator. And then take that weakness list, rip it up, and burn it. You know what? You are not your weaknesses. You are your strengths. And the more that you allow yourself to feel good about you, those weaknesses will automatically strengthen. Don't spend any time with them. Burn it up, get it away. You are not a faltering, worthless little being. You are an amazing child of the divine. Focus on your strengths. Feel good about you. And those things that need to be added in, you will be willing to put the effort in to achieve.